Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of What If Civilization Started Over. In the last episode, we saw World War III finally start. Actually, keep the countries are actually going to war. The episode before that was just nuclear war. And also, I'm gonna say this again. There are only two nuclear countries in the world right now, and both are peaceful. Um, all of the countries, or most countries, have been affected by the nukes too. All right, but let's get started with this war, starting off in North America. We do see that we do see Canada is able to almost completely wipe out this blue country here. They do remain in that major city. However, at this point, the volcanic eruption that happened here, the the cleanup has started, although it's kind of halted. But it is there, and it's more so just volunteers. However, people don't want to go do it because there's a front line out here and one in the north, and they don't want to get shot. Fair, valid reason not to participate. And the government, guess what they do? They don't force it on the people. It's more so what they don't do than what they do. But um, yeah. So a lot of people have the support of this government because they're not forcing anything onto people, um, other than some taxes. But if we're being honest, the taxes in that country are actually really, like, compared to a lot of other countries that are fighting this war, the taxes are actually pretty low. Like, they're still quite high for countries, but they're actually pretty low compared to the rest of the countries in the war. I keep saying that. All right. Um, as I kind of said in the last episode, like the Trapezoid Alliance is failing spectacularly. Like, like out of every alliance that like I should have held a poll on my YouTube channel. You know what? I'm gonna do that. Uh, So I'm recording this way before I think even episode 43 released. So I'm gonna make a poll on my YouTube channel, seeing who you guys will think will win World War III. But Mexico captures this major city. Um, but then they also lose not one but two major cities to the Caribbean nation. And unfortunately, the time has come as the Caribbean nation will begin invading the Central Americans. And well, actually, the invasion goes a lot smoother than you'd think, because a lot of times they're greeted with open arms. This country is They're not really a lot of people aren't fans of Korea or even being involved in this war at all. So they eventually just decide, you know what, we're not gonna fight you back. You can just come on through. Just don't kill our people. And not a sing in the entire invasion of this or of the purple team, there was one death on either side. One death. And that one death was not even really it was more it was caused because of a sickness that had spread and it ended up being malaria. Yet mosquitoes actually do exist in this world, unfortunately. But yeah, one death in this in a big invasion. There was a 2 hour long invasion in Venezuela and they killed like 40 something people, I think. Up in America, this front does kind of slow down. It's a lot closer to the capital, so America is kind of focusing its forces down here of the three fronts that it's fighting. But yeah, so you know, or we move over to Europe now. We found out there was a non-aggression pact between these four countries here, although kind of West Africa or West Africa, kind of West France. They were kind of so on it. But all right, but we see the Adriatic Union is also still having quite some fun in Switzerland. The Swiss have lost access to the Adriatic Sea and are soon going to lose access to the Italian peninsula. They are the weakest of the strong five big countries in the world. They were the weakest. By big countries, I mean historic countries. That's right. I don't know if I mentioned this is called the War of History. All of the countries claim to be the oldest country in the world. Um, they technically all were in their own way, but like this war, it actually started not really because Switzerland invaded these guys, although that's the official cause, but more so the tensions had risen so high because of the debate between five countries, which one was the real oldest. Nobody knows for sure in this world, however, we all know it's actually Switzerland. And, yeah, but anyway, this war, this the War of the Historics is its official name. Also, like, because these are, like, the five historic countries. That's the whole reason I've thought about this war for so long, doing a War of the Historics. Like, you guys have no idea. Gonna turn off alliances again. Uh, Adriatic Union just captured the Green Team's capital, and they have more fronts. They have more of a front line with Switzerland now, and Switzerland they're not doing too well internally. Even they've got aid coming in from other countries, and they still can't even fend off a country that was not even top 10 in the power rankings. Like it's lucky, kind of sad. All right, I'm gonna do some power rankings of the war after the war ends, but the power rankings will be from before the war started. It's gonna be weird, but you'll see what I mean when I get there. But something kind of weird happening over here with so many front. It's not really weird, but with so many fronts open on the Great Empire, they're starting to pull out aid from the Adriatic Union, and therefore these guys too, which causes yet another recapture of this major city here. But more importantly, these guys are pushed pretty far back. Uh, Up in the fight with Russia, they're still kind of doing well, although in the west part of the country, we see Sweden getting more aid over here now, which definitely is going to help a lot. as we see, the capital of Russia is recaptured. Um, and the Great Empire, well, out of everywhere, there's one spot they really want to protect, and that's not this region right here. That's a bit south of here. Start pushing in really along in the areas where the Ethiopians are furthest from their territory, because then it's harder for these guys to get supplies, and it works pretty well. Um, yeah, it it goes well, but Ethiopia still has foothold in this in the Great Empire, and they start pushing back up in the Sudan region as the Great Empire is experiencing a bit of instability here. It's not just here though. Alright, down in the south here, the last event we saw for or second to last event we saw last episode was the blue team invading the gold team. They got a bit further, but turns out these guys are actually capable of holding their own against a country who isn't fully prepared, but one that is twice as strong as them. And they've already captured two major cities, so good for them. These guys only captured one. Well, kind of. As the South Africans will begin invading the Madagascar colony, and yeah, they took it quite quickly. It wasn't gonna last long, but it came at the cost of Mozambique recapturing this southern city that was the Orange Team that was here's capital, and also at the cost of they're starting to get pushed into forces that aren't being sent up into the Great Empire are mostly being focused in this region here. But also they're being focused in this region right here. There's quite a bit of instability here. So, all right, now up here, the Great Empire has well, they're doing very well. Congrats to them. But with them refocusing some forces, it does end up causing them to lose a bit of land out here. And that also does result in another area being pushed into. So I think this land was once owned by the RPGAU, which was like the Great Empire's biggest enemy. In fact, World War II kind of started between them two. Although it was very one-sided towards the Great Empire. Um, alright. We also see the Persian Gulf country taking, or Kuwait taking over, taking back a lot of this land right here. And also, they're pushing back against the Great Empire actually really well up in this region here. Alright. And, yeah, this is actually going a lot worse for the Great Empire than they expected. These guys are obviously they're going to get outside aid from Ethiopia. They also have less of a distraction than was hoped for against these guys or against Tibet and Pakistan. As well, Tibet is getting pushed back once Persia has refocused its forces. It's stronger than these two both. And with the strength of India fighting with them too, these two are stronger than these two. Plus, I'm sure that the Emirati nation's probably fighting up here. But you also have the Cyan team down here, which probably isn't doing much, but you never know. Alright. India pushes a bit further into Pakistan, nearing the capital, however, they're not really able to capture it. However, the same cannot be said for the Tibetan capital, as it is captured by the central gold beam. I don't know if it really is golden color, but alright. Lake Baikal, they're actually real out of every country in this war, they're probably fighting second best, with best being to the gold team as they have just opened another front for the Great Empire to fight against. That front being right up here. Oh, and as it turns out, the Great Empire really thought because we have a line of nuked cities right here. They're not gonna go in and take that. Oh yes, they are. And they take it quite easily because the Great Empire wasn't defending this area. So now we have another area where the Great Empire is not doing too well. So then they now refocus some more forces from out here to over here, also taking a bit from the Persian Gulf country. And these forces are getting to the point where they're so spread out that like you could be fighting one of the armies here and more it's like you're fighting against the United States, but like it's only like 3 states that are actually like getting troops sent over. Um yeah, I don't know. It's weird, but yeah. So they fight back against this, but instability, especially in this region, is kind of growing. There's no rebellions yet, though. There might not be, too. Lake Baikal, well, you doing well, mate. Alright, Lake Baikal has just captured another major city from China, and now they're finally starting to push into Korea. Korea never expected this to happen, even though they literally share a border. Korea had set up defensive up here, but it clearly didn't work. And Lake Baikal's also fighting a three-front war. Eh, eh, ish. It's like one big front, but it's kind of more three fronts because you have the Chinese, Korean, and Bengali. I think that's what it would be. Anyway, all right. Where to now? How about the one continent that hasn't experienced any fighting yet, but actually has countries on it? All right, the red team. What do they do? Pretty much everything they can, and it goes quite well. They set up a big defensive along the border here, except for right in this area here. They kind of let it slide. Um, Blue Australia goes in, captures it. They capture this bit here, but they set up the defensive right here as well, so you can't really get much further than there. But now Red Australia will focus its forces up here. Plus, it's got a bit of aid from Indonesia, even though somebody said not to aid these guys. But all it took was that little bit of aid, and this capital has been captured. And now they will focus their forces up here. We'll, although they will need to save their navy for down here. All right, now out here, we've already covered that, but out here, Brazil, it's one-sided. Brazil is destroying this country here. Um, Even with these guys having their aid or their supplies a bit more spread out than Brazil does, Brazil's it should be a lot less one-sided than it is. And take somebody's gonna take a bit of advantage to this, and a landing is made here, and it expands to here, and the Caribbean nation is proving itself to be very, very powerful. I mean, you've got Florida, you've got like all of Central America, even though this wasn't much of a fight at all, and there was literally one death on your side and zero on theirs. Um, but suddenly the president, or the, excuse, okay, yeah, so suddenly the president is going crazy on like roasting the there were two military generals in this area. That's all it took. They had the two biggest like, forces, but there were two generals in this area, and they're both getting yelled at by the president because the president was told that there were zero deaths, and it turns out the president of these guys actually is from Mexico. And if you know anything, Mexico doesn't like these guys, so he kind of doesn't like these guys either. So he wanted them killed. But when he found out there were zero deaths, there was one death and it was on their side. Uh, he's not happy about it. Um, yeah, so just know that he's not happy about it. Uh, those military generals aren't fired because, I mean, he did secure like all of Central America with one casualty. Whereas to get this far into Mexico, it's already costed him about the same as getting to Florida too. Like each of these invasions is costing about the same, and then this took him maybe this didn't take him much at all. Maybe like $20,000 for the supply for the supplies needed. It's like uh this a lot of people are kind of mad at this guy for like ridiculing his best generals for like for having one more death in the war. I mean, it is kind of embarrassing to have the only death in an invasion. But hey, you just captured the Mexican capital thanks to one of those generals. Next time, next time, use your brain. But now he's also mad because they're killing his people. So like, what do you want, sir? We are at war with Mexico. All right, but yeah, things don't go well for America either. Um, And the Great Lakes Empire, well, they're not really sending any aid out. So that's kind of getting questions asked. They're setting up a def- they're sending they're setting up troops on the border of their own allies, except for right up here. And they're not sending aid out, which kind of tells people they know they're cooked. They just don't want to admit it. The thing is, if they had actually sent out forces over here, they could actually like defend these areas. Although central Canada is like is actually kind of smart-ish. They have the they've own a title for the smartest general active. Um, and it lives up to his name after in 5 weeks he is able to capture this major city. Takes him another 2 weeks to capture this major city here, and after that, it takes him roughly a month to capture this, or to capture the capital. And now that the capital's captured, uh, Alaska's gone. So they get a big victory in the war. That's good. Um, okay, so it did happen to come at the cost of this country is pretty much entirely back. Hmm. Also, this island here, and they stole all the ships somehow. I don't know. And they're also now invading you, so that's good. Well, good for them, but not good for you. These guys don't have a capital. I don't know how I'm just now noticing that. But, yep. So now, so things are kind of sort of going well for Canada. They have a big success in the north, and they aren't having a success in the south. So they put the general that was in charge of taking over this down here. We'll see how that goes. And not well. All right. Um. So we now see the line team out here. They push into Canada, and now they're moving that one general again because they're not able to defend that front. So now we see the Oregon country, or Oregon, whatever you pronounce it as. We now see them taking this land, so they move him to defend against both of these countries. And suddenly, this general is feeling extremely stressed out. I wonder why. But yeah, he's not doing too well. He's making some dumb decisions. Although he makes one good move up in the north, which pushes these guys back here, allows them to enter the territory a bit, and they finally are back behind California, and they're they're just pushing right for the coast. Luckily, a volcano's not going to erupt this time and kill half of their forces out here. But it does lead to some success and a morale boost for the general and his troops. Hey, you win some, you lose some. This one was a big win. Alright, America, America. He's not, well, another major city was captured along the Gulf. It turns out America happens to actually be run by some elitists, and they don't put good generals in place. They, in fact, one of them put a general who was his best friend and had no military experience. And he put him on the front lines. Said, "All right, we need you to help now." And he's made some of the worst decisions ever. They have a better general out here that does happen to recapture some territory and split this front line in half. And they also do enter West Mexico a bit. And they're making a big spearhead down. Then one of the sergeants says, "All right, so we need to head back now." And the group suddenly becomes divided. Don't mind the noises. Um, so the group becomes divided. Some of them go back, some of them don't. I'll tell you something right now. The ones who go back survive. The one good general they had doesn't. And now this has been pushed back completely because they forgot to defend it. They were so close to capturing the capital and they forgot to defend it. Uh West Mexico and Mexico, they kind of are at they're at more of a stalemate. They aren't really fighting each other as much as they are fighting America. They have each done some damage to each other, although it's not great on either side. West Mexico is kind of winning this war, though. And then there's the Caribbean nation who's kind of just doing their own thing. And that their own thing is working well, as in very well. Well enough to the point where the Americans have almost completely lost coastal access. Alright, now we'll go on to the final front movement of the day, or of the episode, which will be right out, right out here, as the Koreans decide to lock in, and they push Lake Baikal back quite a bit. Now we are going to go over to Antarctica a bit, where I'm actually just going to be on this here. I'll work on that all later. Alright, um, actually I do need something from here. First landing ever made, or the first, not landing, but the first settlement ever made on Antarctica has been founded on this island right here. It seriously look different shades of white here. Oh my god. It's white. Alright, so the first landing's made right here. Or the first settlement's made right here. And yeah. But that will do it for today's episode of alternate or that will do it for today's episode of What If Civilization Started Over. Well, if you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.